In this tutorial, we'll cover AWS CodePipline. If you followed the previous tutorials, you should have a repository in your code commit. You should also have a successful build in your code build. And at last, you should have a successful deployment in your code deploy. If you have all three, make sure that the instance that we deployed the app on is running and check if the app is working. Everything looks okay. Now let's go for the code deploy. The pipeline. Get started, and in here pay attention to this part here. It says all pipelines are free for the first month, so make sure to delete the pipeline once you're done. Let's create our first pipeline, and I'll name mine web app pipeline. It'll create a role for us. Let's keep everything as is, and yeah, I'll select default in here. For the artifact, it'll be in my S3 bucket. For the source, we have our source in AWS code commit. The repository name is web app repo. The branch is the master. Keep everything as is and go next. For the build, we have our build in AWS CodeBuild. In this region, in the project name or the build name is web app build. Next, for the deployment, we have our deployment in AWS code deploy in the same region, and the name is web app. The deployment group is web app group. Next, review and create the pipeline. Now the pipeline is created. You shouldn't get any errors if you have your source in the repository in code commit and you have a successful build and a successful deployment. You won't see any issues in here. I'll pause here and come back when it's done. We successfully passed all the stages with no issues. Now you can go to your AWS S3 and check for the artifact or the output of the pipeline. This is it. We have a code pipeline in here that has the code pipeline that we just deployed to AWS S3 bucket. And now let's make some changes and see what happens. Let's go to our project and let's change something. I'll change this to version 2 and add the changes, commit the changes, and push. It says that everything is up to date. Let's see if any change has been detected in here. No changes. Let's do it again. Oh, I didn't save the file. Yeah. I'll type 2 here, save, and do it again. Add, commit, and push. Now it should detect the changes. Let's wait here and see. Okay. If it doesn't detect the change, we can release changes from here. But yeah, it detected it. So I'll pause here and come back when it's done. Okay. Now we can see that the pipeline detected the changes and updated the source, the build, and the deploy. Now if we go to S3, of course we see the same file in here, but for the instance, if we connect to it and check the app, we'll see that we have a change in here. So pipeline detected the change and updated the source, the build, and the deployment, and deployed the app with the changes. Now let's do something else. Let's go to the pipeline. Let's add a stage. Let's go to edit and add a stage before the deploy. I'll name it something like manual approval with no spaces. Okay, for this we will add an action here. I'll name it web app manual approval. The action will be manual approval, and I'll leave this here. This will notify the person who's responsible or who's assigned with this action. And let's get the link for our instance. In here, let's type HTTP and put our link. Let's add a comment in here. Let's say waiting for your approval, and done. I forgot something here. Yeah. Now if we save, make sure to save. We save the changes on the pipeline. Let's make some other change in here. Save, and let's add the changes, commit them, and push them. Now it should detect the change. The pipeline should detect the change, and this time it will go through this stage, which is the manual approval, and the person or the engineer who are responsible for approving this stage will approve it. Then it will move to the deployment stage. Hasn't been detected yet. Yeah, it has been detected now. It's working on the build. I'll pause here and come back when it's done. Okay, now we can see that the pipeline has detected the changes and updated the source and the build, but it stopped here and it's waiting for the approval. Let's review and approve. I'll type a comment in here. Let's do approved and approve it. We can reject it, but we will approve it. Now it'll pass this stage and it will go to the deployment. This deployment is not ours. The ID is different from the one that we have in here. This was the previous one. Now it will change to the new ID and it will work on the deployment. As we can see here now, we have the same ID and it's working on the deployment. We're done with the deployment. Now if we go to the app and refresh, we can see the change that we've made in here. This is it for the pipeline. See you in the next tutorial.